semiconductor devices, semiconductor devices and electronics. So this is what we are going to discuss today. Here, the very first thing what we have to revise is every material when you consider, or a material when you consider, it is divided into three types: conductors, semiconductors and insulators. So based on their resistive power, based on their conductivity, and here I have given the range also. So you please note down and remember the values. Like we will mainly categorize into three types: conductors or metals, semiconductors and insulators. And what is the range of resistivity and what is the range of conductivity? So both I have given. So for each of them, if you consider conductors, the conductivity is very larger, up to 10 power 8, and resistivity is very lesser. If you take insulators, the resistivity is very higher, up to 10 power 19, so very larger. But if you take semiconductors, these are the one, they have the medium behavior between conductors or metals and insulators. Now here one thing we would like to understand first: as temperature increases, the resistivity of conductors or metals increases. That is what you have studied in current electricity. But here in semiconductors, what we say is, in case of semiconductors, as temperature increases, then its resistivity decreases, conductivity increases. So what is the reason? We'll try to understand it. So this is the basic classification of substance or solids, better to say, into three types based on their conductivity and resistivity. Same category we will do it based on another thing, that is based on the conduction band and valence band. So inside one substance or solid, when you consider, many atoms will be there. When you consider one atom, there are some energy levels associated with valence electrons. So those all energies we call it as, energy levels we call it as valence band, and there are few empty bands will be there, energy levels will be there. Those all together we call them as conduction band. So that inside the substance there are so many atoms. So all atoms when you consider together, there are energy levels of valence electrons together forms like a band, that is called valence band. So all the energy levels of valence electrons forms one band called valence band, and all the energy levels of unfilled one, that we call it as conduction band. So based on that, how we decide is, when both conduction and valence band, both of them mixed each other and overlap each other, that material we call it as conductors or metals. And when they have small gap, small energy gap, those materials we call them as semiconductors, and those with greater energy gap, those we call it as insulators. Means when electron is able to move freely from valence band to conduction band, so free electrons are available, then its conductivity is very high. Those who do not have, then they don't conduct the electricity, then they need some extra support, then we need to do something with that. So what is that and how we have to do that, that we need to understand. Now here, valence band and conduction band. The energy band, which includes the energy levels of valence electrons, is called valence band, and the energy band above it is called conduction band. So first valence band, then above it conduction band. So electrons can jump from valence band to conduction band. If they can, then conductivity is there. So that is what the difference between valence band and conduction band. So here they mentioned, like I will show you, the energy band gap is also defined as difference between the highest valence band energy. Means, see here, what is the meaning is, if you consider all the valence electrons, they form different energy levels, like one after the other. So this is the highest energy level. Like that, same here, conduction band also will be there. 1, 2, 3, so on like this. So the lowest of conduction band, highest of valence. This is called energy gap. Energy gap between highest energy level of valence band and lowest energy level of conduction band. That we call it as energy band. So that is the energy band when you consider, that is 0 for metals and that is less than 3 electron volt for semiconductors, greater for insulators. Like here conduction band, valence band. So in case of conductors, if you see both of them are overlapping each other. So energy gap is how much here? In this case, the energy gap is 0. So that kind of substance, what we call it as metals or conductors. Now, the next one, as I said, insulators, when you consider, the energy gap is huge. It is greater than 3 electron volts. And such kind of energy band we call it as, such kind of substance we call it as, or we categorize it as insulator. Now, the third one is semiconductors. In this case, the energy gap is there between valence band and conduction band, but the energy gap is smaller, which we can overcome. Means you can do something so that electron can overcome this energy gap and it can jump from valence band to conduction band. Now, see here. When you consider a semiconductor, in this chapter, we are going to study about only two. One is silicon and germanium, where both of them have 4 valence electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that, both of them have 4 valence electrons. Now, so 4 valence electrons are there, means they form 4 covalent bond. So when you consider a silicon or germanium semiconductor, the structure will be like this. That is, the structure is as shown here. So each atom is forming 4 covalent bonds with the 4 adjacent atoms. That is what the general structure of semiconductor, silicon or germanium. And this is the one naturally existing one, which we call it as intrinsic semiconductor. Intrinsic, or better to say pure semiconductor. So this is the one, pure or intrinsic semiconductor, where each and every atom forms 4 covalent bonds with the 4 electrons of the 4 adjacent atoms. So this is the general structure. Now, at absolute 0 temperature, what happens is all the electrons are tightly bounded with the covalent bonds. So no electron is free to conduct electricity. So no electron will conduct electricity, or no electron is available to conduct electricity through the material. Then here we need some free electrons. So what happens is, when temperature increases, one of the bond gets broken so that electron becomes free. So there is a vacancy will be created and one electron becomes free. So the electron which becomes free, that will move freely, that can conduct electricity. So that's why as temperature increases, the tightly bounded electrons may become free. So they conduct electricity. And here what happens is, here suppose one vacancy is created as one electron came out. Now this vacancy may be filled by this one. Then the electron moved from here to here and the hole is moving in the reverse direction. Means hole will shift from here to here. That's why we will say here that hole is also moving. Hole will not move anywhere. Electron only will move from one place to other place. I mean, electrons shift the bond from one point to another point. As electron shifts, the hole also gets shifts in the opposite direction. That's why here we consider in case of semiconductor, there are two types of charge carriers. One is electron, free electrons, and another one is holes. And electrons are like negative charges. Holes are just behave like positive charges. So that is what the intrinsic semiconductor. Now for a intrinsic semiconductor, as temperature increases, one electron become free means one hole will be generated. That's why number of electrons and number of holes always equal. That is called intrinsic semiconductor concentration or intrinsic carrier concentration, where the relation is given by NE/NH equal to Ni square. So this is the relation based on which sometimes question can come. And current is due to electron flow as well as hole flow, and the total current will become sum of current due to electron flow and hole flow. That's why in case of semiconductor, this is the total current. Now here one question is given. See, in an intrinsic semiconductor, the number of conduction electrons. So this is Ne. So they have given Ne value. Find the total number of current carriers, electrons and holes in the same conductor of size. So they have given volume. So number of electrons per meter cube they are asking. So what is Ne value will become? Number of electrons per unit volume means. So here total number of electrons by volume. So Ne value they have given and V value they have given. Then you can find what? N value, number of electrons. So this way the questions can come based on Ne, NH or Ne, NH equal to Ni square. Based on that questions can come. Like here they have given, see, pure silicon at 300 Kelvin has equal electron Ne and hole NH concentration of 1.5 into 10 power 16 per meter cube. By some means, hole concentration increases to 3 into 10 power 22 per meter cube. Now calculate Ne. See, initially hole and electron concentration is equal. By some means, we don't know what they have done, but they have increased hole concentration. So now this is hole concentration, this is NH and this is Ne. Sorry, this is Ni, intrinsic carrier concentration, initial one. Now Ne into NH equal to Ni whole square, where Na, NH and Ni is given, then you can find Ne. So just you need to do the proper calculation. So Ne equal to Ni square by NH. So this is the way also they can ask the very first kind of question. The next kind of question what they can ask is what is the conductivity of a semiconductor? That we will see it. Now here comes, see, just before we have said that pure or intrinsic semiconductor, when you consider as temperature increases, then electrons becomes free. So holes will be generated. So they can move, they can conduct electricity. But as temperature increases, the number of electrons becomes free or very less. So, but we want something greater conductivity so that we can use it in for a particular purpose. That's why we go for doping. Doping means adding impurities, either trivalent or pentavalent we try to add, like trivalent aluminium or pentavalent phosphorus. So when you add trivalent, the pure intrinsic semiconductor becomes extrinsic semiconductor called p-type, where the 3 valence electron aluminium replaces one silicon or germanium, so that it can form only 3 bonds. So fourth one become vacant, so that one hole will be created. So when you add trivalent, one hole will be created. without the effect of temperature. Similarly, when you take pentavalent and if you added out of 5 electrons, 4 electrons will make the bond and the fifth one becomes free. That's why it will become free electron. So it will provide free electron. And that kind of impurity when you add, we can increase the electron concentration. And the resultant semiconductor, we call it as extrinsic N-type semiconductor. So P-type means we will add trivalent, so hole concentration will increase, and pentavalent means electron concentration will increase, and that we call it as N-type. So here if you see when we add trivalent, it can form 3 bonds, but here one vacancy created, that is called hole. That means it is ready to accept the electron. That's why it becomes a acceptor. That means it will become negative charge. It is ready to accept the electron. That is what we represent. So it is accepting the electron. That's why it is negatively charged one. And it is ready to accept. That's why we call it as acceptor. So that is the case with P-type semiconductor. So when you dope with a trivalent acceptor atom, then it is giving P-type semiconductor. Now, the trivalent impurity atoms are called acceptor atoms inside the semiconductor. Similarly, when you consider here, see here 5 are there. Now out of 5, 1 electron became free. So that means it is donating 1 electron. That's why we call it as donor. So we call it as donor. Now, here as 1 electron becomes free, so number of donor atoms you added, that many electrons will be generated. So we can increase electron concentration, and this we call it as N-type semiconductor. So N-type semiconductor when you add pentavalent donor atom. So we call it as donor atoms. Now when you consider the current flow, as I said, the current flow is due to electron and hole. And when you consider the any semiconductor and connected to battery, what happens here you see. See, this diagram clearly telling here. So the electrons are moving this side and holes are moving this side, because here we are connected this manner that positive terminal will repel positive charges. Positive charges means holes, and negative terminal will repel electrons, or positive terminal will attract electrons, so they are trying to come here, and negative terminal will attract positive, so they are trying to come here. So this way when you connect it to a battery, then due to the terminal which you have connected, so the electron and hole flow may happen within the semiconductor. That is what they are trying to show here. Now for such conductor, what is the conductivity? And that conductivity formula is this one. So please remember this one, where NENH is number of electrons and number of holes per unit volume. I mean electron hole concentration, and E is electron charge, and mu E, mu H, like in current electricity you have studied, mu is drift velocity per unit electric field, that is nothing but mobility. Here there are 2 types of charges are there. That's why we call it as one mobility mu E, another mobility mu H. Mobility for electrons, mobility for holes. So based on this equation also questions can be asked. So like, see here a P-type semiconductor has acceptor level 50 mega electron volt above the valence band. Find the maximum wavelength of light that can create a hole. See here the meaning of the question is, so there is some energy gap between them. And the energy gap can be, energy gap means what? The electron should get this much of energy to enter from valence band to conduction band, right? So that much of energy if you provide in the form of light, energy, then the given energy what we will do is, hc by lambda, that is the photon energy, and that should be equal to 50 milli electron volt. So if you equate it, then you will get the lambda value. So such kind of question they'll ask, and based on conductivity also I said. See here, a semiconductor has equal electron atom hole concentration. So Ne, NH is same. On doping with certain impurity, electron concentration increases to this much. That means this is Ni. Initially both are same means that is intrinsic concentration. And this is the one, the increased electron concentration. Now Ne, NH equal to Ni square. So here identify the new semiconductor obtained after doping. So electron concentration increased means, first question, identify the semiconductor means as electron concentration increased, that is N-type semiconductor. And calculate the new hole concentration. So new hole concentration is Ni square by Ne. So you can substitute both the values. And how does the energy gap vary with doping? So the energy gap decreases because now more electrons will come. I mean more energy levels will come, and those energy levels, either acceptor level or donor level, that will form between valence band and conduction band. Like this is conduction band, this is valence band. So here the acceptor or donor level will form, so that the energy gap, what happens on doping, decreases. Now here find the resistivity of a sample in which 10 power 19 atoms of phosphorus are added per meter cube. Take the resistivity of pure silicon as and mobilities of electrons. So they have given mu h and this is mu e, this is mu h. So mobilities of electrons and holes they have given. And here I have shown you already formula, sigma equal to mu e Ne, mu h nh. See here, the conductivity formula, see. So mu e, mu h they have given, sigma they have given. And what they are asking here in the question is, find the resistivity of a sample in which 10 power 19 atoms of phosphorus are added per meter cube. See here they have given, this is the number of atoms added. So this many number of atoms added means that many electrons will come, because here phosphorus is adding means that they are like donors, pentavalent. Now Ne value they are giving as 10 power 19, right? Now the total concentration is now Ne plus NH, but this is the Ne NH initially. So you can take Ne equal to NH, and they are asking resistivity. So resistivity equal to 1 by conductivity. That 1 by conductivity means, conductivity formula what we have taken, Ne E into mu E plus NH E into mu H. But here Ne equal to NH. So if you take common, then 1 by Ne into E into mu E plus mu H. So mu E, mu H values they have given, and Ne value is given, E value is given, so that you can find the resistivity. But when after doping, what you have to consider is, here Ne becomes very much greater than NH. So that the resistivity, what we will take it is 1 by Ne into mu E. So only this one, because here Ne is very much greater, that's why this term we will neglect it. So that the resistivity you can find from this approximate value. So this way you can find the resistivity or conductivity based questions based on the semiconductors. Now, this also, what will be the conductivity of pure silicon crystal at 300 Kelvin? If the electron hole pairs per centimeter cube is at this temperature, and see mu E, mu H they have given, and electron hole pairs per, so Ne, NH value same, Ne, NH they have given, mu E, mu H they have given. So the conductivity means what? N into E into mu E plus mu H. So this is the conductivity. So you can substitute the values where N is 1.072 into 10 power 10, E is charge of electron, mu E, mu H they have given. But one thing, take care that the unit conversion do it properly as they have given in terms of centimeter. Now, the next thing comes, it's all about PN junction diode. Now, okay, we have done, somehow we made arrangement so that we increase the conductivity and we made p-type semiconductor, we made n-type semiconductor. Now to use it as a device, what we have to do is we have to keep them in contact. You have to keep them p and n in contact. So when you keep p and n in contact, then what happens? So some problems, difficulties comes initially in using it as device, and first we should understand how to utilize it as, how to overcome those problems, then we can understand how to use it as a device. First, see here at the junction, what happens is the electron hole pairs recombine, see here, so that the p side only the acceptor atoms will be there, and the n side only donor atoms will be there. So that in the region or at the junction, there is a region forms where only positive and negative ions will be there, which creates some potential difference, and that region we call it as depletion region, and that try to oppose the electron flow further across the junction, so that there is no chance of flow of electrons, so that the current will not flow through that one. And here when you consider p-type, n-type, so we divide the charge carriers as majority and minority. If you consider p, we increased hole concentration. So inside p, holes are majority and electrons are minority charge carriers. But in case of n, electrons are majority charge carriers and holes are minority charge carriers, minor charge carriers. And here, when there is a current flow, if you make it some arrangement such that the current flow is due to majority charge carriers, then the current is huge. But when you make some arrangement in such a way that the current is due to minority charge carriers, then current flow is low. But to flow some current through the junction diode, then we have to use the external source. Why? Because here across the depletion region there is some potential difference created, and we have to apply external potential to overcome that one. So that only we call it as barrier potential. So for that we need to connect them in either forward bias or reverse bias. So forward bias means P will be connected to positive terminal, N will be connected to negative terminal. And if you reverse the polarity, P with negative, N with positive, then we call it as reverse bias. And this is the general representation of a PN junction diode. Like P side as like anode, N side is like cathode. So that is what junction diode. Now, first thing, when you consider forward bias, see here. Forward bias means here P side we have connected to positive terminal, P side, and N side we connected to negative terminal. So positive terminal will repel the positive charges holes so that they move towards the junction, and negative terminal repel the negative charges so that electrons move towards the junction. So that here electrons in N region, holes in P region, they are trying to cross the junction. That's why here current is due to majority charge carriers. That means when one electron from negative terminal enters, then one electron from P region enters here. So that always number of electrons remain same inside the junction. I mean inside the PN diode. So that current flow will happen, and that is due to what kind of charges here? Majority charge carriers, and that current is considerable. But here if you consider the voltage of the applied battery should be greater or equal to barrier potential, then only this current flow happens through the PN junction diode. Now similar way, when you connect in reverse manner, see here the majority charge carriers are not crossing the junction, they are moving away. And here, electrons in P region, they get repulsion. And holes in N region, they get repulsion. So here, the electron hole, majority charge carriers are moving away from the junction. That's why we call it as drift current. And in the first case, they are trying to mix each other across the junction. That's why it is called diffusion current. Diffusion current is more, drift current is less. Diffusion current is from P to N side, drift current is from N to P side. That is what the difference between biasing, forward bias and reverse bias. Now, when you consider a diode in forward bias, the current is due to majority charge carrier, so it is considerable. But in reverse bias, it is due to minority charge carrier, so it is negligible. So based on that fact also questions can come. Like here, if you take one circuit, see, find the net resistance of the network shown in the figure between points P and Q. If Vp greater than Vq, first case, Vp greater than Vq means this is positive terminal. So that means current will flow here like this. So that means like this. So here current is flowing in this branch like this, means it is flowing from P to N side. So it is in forward bias. So you can consider that because current is flowing now. But in reverse bias, the current is lesser, so we will not consider. So both are now in parallel connection. So that for diode, we will take it almost the resistance is zero until and unless they mention. So in every circuit, if they mention diode, we will take it as ideal and the resistance is zero. So that is just like a wire. But only thing what we have to look here is whether it is forward biased or reverse biased. If it is reverse biased, then the current is very lesser. So you can remove the diode and the element in series from the circuit. So in the other case, Vp less than Vq means then current will flow from here. So from here current is flowing means current will enter like this. Then the diode is in reverse bias. Then current will not flow through that. Then only resistor which takes part is 12 ohm. Here no current will enter because diode is in reverse bias. Because the current is trying to flow from N to P region. So then the current is negligible. So the diode can be removed from the circuit. Now same way you can understand this question also. Here anyhow the positive terminal is connected, so current is flowing from P to N, so it is in forward bias only. And they are asking what should be the value of the resistor connected in series with the diode for obtaining maximum current. So here what is the current formula will become power by voltage. Now if you look at the question, the diode used in the circuit shown in figure has a constant voltage drop of 0.5. See, total applied is 2 volt and here some voltage drop 0.5. Then what is the remaining will come here? 1.5. And the power is how much? 200. So that we have the power, we have the voltage, then we can find it. So current equal to what? Because the formula is power equal to voltage into current. So current equal to power by voltage, that is what they applied. And after getting current, according to Ohm's law, V equal to IR, so resistance equal to V by I. So voltage is how much? 2 minus 0.5 because 0.5 is across diode. So remaining will go to the resistor. So they may try to relate few questions, current, electricity and semiconductor, resistor and diode combination questions they may give you. So please try to understand the question and try to solve it. Now here, when you consider forward bias, as I said, so the voltage must reach some particular value, then only current starts increases, then it increases linearly up to some region. But here the linear part is not like completely. See, it will become curved afterwards. This is called forward characteristics of current versus voltage. Initially no current because the voltage, external voltage would overcome the barrier potential. After reaching that, then only it will increase. So this is called forward bias current. Now, but when you consider reverse bias, here the current is very negligible. The current is very less, almost to zero. But at a particular point called breakdown, the current increases suddenly to a maximum value. Why? Because in the region of depletion region, suddenly a greater number of charge carriers generates. So why that generates and what is the reason and what type of them we call it as is, there are two types of breakdown. One is Zener breakdown and another one is avalanche breakdown. When the doping is very high and when you keep on increasing the external voltage at a very high voltage battery voltage inside the depletion region, more number of electrons and hole pairs created. So that will come suddenly, so that the large current will increase suddenly. That is what we call it as breakdown, that is Zener breakdown. And if the doping is less, then we call it as avalanche breakdown. So here, like see, at very high reverse voltage, due to high electric field, the minority charge carriers while crossing the junction acquire very high velocities. These by collision breaks down the covalent bonds, generating more carriers within the depletion region. And this causes a greater current. And that breakdown we call it as avalanche breakdown. So there are two types. One is avalanche breakdown and another one is Zener breakdown. So here Zener breakdown means, as I said, when it increases, so the electron hole pair will created because of breaking of covalent bond. But here avalanche breakdown means because of the collision of fast moving electrons with the bonds, with the atoms. So that is the difference between Zener breakdown and avalanche breakdown. That is what here graphically they are showing. So one voltage is called Zener voltage, another voltage is called avalanche voltage or avalanche breakdown. And in case of forward bias, the minimum voltage required to increase the current is called knee voltage or barrier voltage. So this is the current characteristics of a PN junction diode, which can be utilized as a what we call it as rectifier. So half wave rectifier and full wave rectifier. So half wave rectifier means where it converts half wave as DC, and full wave rectifier means it will convert full wave as DC. That means the conversion of alternating current into direct current, DC current. That is what we need to understand here. But in case of a junction diode, the dynamic resistance will define because the voltage and current keep on changing. It is not a straight line. It is not obeying the Ohm's law. So that it is like a curve. It is looking like. That's why we call it as dynamic resistance. So what is the change in voltage, change in current for a corresponding change in voltage? And that ratio we call it as dynamic resistance of the junction diode. That is what here they have given formula. Like here, one question is given. A silicon diode is connected to a load resistance RL as shown in the figure. Let V in and RL if barrier voltage, then calculate output voltage across RL. So first they are asking output voltage. So output voltage across RL. So this is the load resistance across which we will collect the output voltage. Now output voltage means, see how much you have applied, this much you have applied, and this much drop is there across the voltage, across the diode. So remaining will go here. So V applied minus V barrier, that only output voltage, that is what they calculated here. Now the next question what they are asking is current in diode. So current in diode means voltage by resistance. So here voltage is 9.3 and the load resistance value how much they have given, 10 kilo ohm. So that is what you have to apply. So here V out already we calculated and RL. So current in the circuit. Now the third question what they are asking is forward resistance. So forward resistance nothing but dynamic resistance. So dynamic resistance, forward resistance means voltage by current. Current already we calculated, but here see, try to understand one thing. See, forward resistance means the resistance offered by this one. So how much voltage is there across this 0.7? So resistance means what? Voltage by current. So voltage is much and current is this much. So voltage by current is resistance. So that way you can solve the questions. Now if diode is assumed ideal, if diode is assumed ideal means no resistance, then what will be output voltage? Then there is no resistance, there is no voltage drop. So that the same voltage will be there. See, RF is 0, VB is 0, so V out equal to Vn. There is no voltage drop across the diode. Then in that case they are also asking output current. So there is no voltage drop means what? Total voltage will be applied. So what is the current will become? V inside, V in by RL. That is what? The output current in case of ideal diode. So there are two cases they have given. One is ideal case, one is non-ideal case. Ideal case means resistance will be 0. Now, next thing, as I said, how it works as rectifier, half wave rectifier. See, when you give a alternating cycle to one coil, just like transformer formula, due to electromagnetic induction, as current in one coil changes, the current induces in the another coil. So that for positive cycle, diode suppose in forward bias, then for negative cycle, the current direction becomes opposite. Means, suppose for positive cycle, it is induced like this. So it will go like this. So you can collect the output. But when it is going the negative cycle, then it current induces in the reverse direction. Then current try to move in the opposite direction. Then it will become reverse bias. So for positive cycle, diode will become in forward bias. So you will get the output. So here output when you collect it, only positive cycle will come out. The negative cycle will get vanished. That means we are able to convert alternating current into unidirectional current or DC current, but only half of the cycle we are able to convert. That's why it is called half wave rectifier. And for half wave rectifier, they will ask you the questions based on what is the average value, what is the RMS value, what is the ripple factor and all. So those formulas I am showing here, please remember and try to remember the formulas and try to understand. Note down all these points. One is average output, current or voltage. So the formulas here they have given. Please try to remember those formulas. Direct formula based questions they can ask you. So ripple factor means the ratio of AC component to DC component. So based on this also the questions can be asked. But these days they are not asking, but still remember the question. Usually they are asking from the last 4-5 years the questions based on just circuits where resistor and diode will be included, which we have seen just before. Now similar way, when you consider here, suppose there are two diodes if you arranged, then positive cycle means current will induce in this way so that it will go and it will complete the circuit like this. so that one diode will conduct and the output will come out. And for negative cycle, then current will induce in this way. Now this diode will conduct and the current will be completed the circuit. Now D2 will be conducted. So that again we got the output across RL. So we are able to get the both output, positive cycle and negative cycle. And that's why here we call it as full wave rectifier. Rectification means what? Conversion from AC to DC. Here also, just you understand the circuit, how D1 is conducting for positive cycle and how D2 is conducting for negative cycle. Based on that, again here the questions will be asked like what is the average current, what is the RMS current, what is the ripple factor and all. So please try to remember these values for the full wave rectifier also. But same full wave rectifier you can also achieve with 4 diodes, that is called bridge rectifier. See, I'll show the diagram here. So, but formulas are not different. See, here for positive cycle, suppose current induced in this manner. So like this. Now it is going and coming here. Now here 2 paths are there. So here it will not enter because it is reverse bias. So the current will enter here. Now here also it will not go. It will go and here you will get the output. And it will complete the circuit like this. So like this it will go and it will complete the circuit. Now when you consider negative cycle, then it will go in reverse manner. Now it will go like this. It will go like this. Then it will complete the circuit like this. So like that, even though you arrange 4 diodes, still 2 are conducting. Sorry, 2 at a time they are conducting. So like in positive cycle, D2 and D4 are conducting. For negative cycle, D1 and D3 are conducting. So that for first cycle, 2 diodes will conduct, and for another cycle 2 diodes will conduct. So that here across the RL, the output will come like this. So full wave get rectified. So based on this, the questions can come. So formula based question, direct formula based questions, they can give you, they can ask you. So please try to remember all these values and remember the formulas. What is the efficiency? What is the ripple factor? What is the RMS output? What is the average output and all those things. So this is how the questions can be asked in the, but mainly the questions you focus on the combination of resistor and diodes. That is the usually most of the time they asked questions. So please focus on such questions. And in the next class, we'll try to continue with the transistors and digital electronics. That we will study in the coming class. So thank you all of you. Please practice everything and try to remember the formulas. Thank you.